Welcome to another episode of Transpowerd Leader with me, Malcolm Stephens. In the first episode of Transpowerd Leader, we had defined what is leadership. And in that definition, we had also seen how influencing was the key for any leader in his leadership journey. In the subsequent episode, we had seen the importance of power and that to expert power, which we develop through enhancing our competencies. And using this power and with the skills of influencing, one can really go about transforming anything, everything, and everybody around us. So in this episode of Transpowerd Leader, we are going to see how influencing can help us to become a transpowered leader. Each one of us in our life's journey, I'm sure, would have encountered people who influenced us to be the best or sometimes to bring out the worst in us. Even starting from our journey in school, we would have had teachers who worked so hard with us and influenced us to be the best, to give out the best possible results. Well, we also must have encountered teachers who possibly could not bring the best out of us. Even in my own life, I had this experience of one teacher who just could not influence my class in high school or bring out anything good in each one of us. He kept trying, but the best he could do was to walk into the class and make us all stand up on the benches. And at some point of time, bring us down and make us stand. And after some time towards the end of the class, he would make us sit. All through the academic year, he kept doing this and just did not yield the desired results. In fact, it kept getting the worst out of each one of us. So if you see, we have all encountered people in our lives who could either bring the best in us or the worst in us through their influencing skills, through their power of influencing. Even in our professional lives, as we work in organizations, it could be an institution, an educational institution, it can be an organization, a corporate body, an entity, it could be anything. Wherever we are working, we possibly come across people who are very good influencers and some who are struggling to influence people to make them do things which they want them to do. We would have seen leaders who really stand up and influence people and get the best out of people and give the best to the organization. I had this beautiful experience when I was training maybe about 2 decades back for a large retail organization, and I had the entire leadership team sitting through a program with me. We were doing strategic leadership program. One evening after the tea break, after everybody had their cup of tea, somebody dropped 2 cups of tea. The cup fell down and it broke. Immediately, there were a couple of people who rushed to the intercom and tried to dial up housekeeping to get them to clean up the floor. The CEO of the company just stepped forward, he bent down, he picked up those cups, and he started putting all the pieces into a dustbin. And you know what happened? Everybody rushed in and they also started picking up the pieces of the cup which had broken. Friends, that is what is influencing. When a leader steps forward and he does certain things which makes everybody follow him and do things which they're supposed to do. And that's the true power of influencing. Why is influencing so very critical, especially in today's world and in today's times? If you see the world around us, the organizations around us, there has been tremendous changes. There has been a death of authority. Today, we have reached a stage where we have to give up the idea of command and control. It is no longer a one-way street. It's all about team working. It's all about influencing. So let's quickly look at what is actually the definition of influencing. Successful influencing means getting a result which meets the legitimate needs of both the leader and the follower. Influencing can also be equated to emotional intelligence, because influencing is also the ability to manage human emotions. So influencing becomes very, very important for any leader to really transform people and organizations. Influencing, however, is not about forcing others to accept your point of view. It is not about continuously nagging people till they agree. It is not about bargaining and trying to reach a common ground. It's not about giving into somebody's point of view even when you're not convinced. And lastly, influencing is not a debate. Now let's look at how do we develop our ability to influence so that we become a truly transformational and transpowered leader. In our journey to learn how to influence, we need to understand that there are certain core skills which we need to develop. In fact, there are 6 of them. These 6 skills, which we say is the core to influence, can be further categorized into pull skills and push skills. So what are these pull skills and what are these push skills? Let's understand what is pull and what is push. Pull and push is required everywhere, be it marketing, be it customer service, be it human relations. We need pull and push everywhere. Now let's take marketing, or let's take a retail store. What makes you enter the retail store? It's something about the facade, there's something about the look, something about the window, the display of merchandise. You feel like entering the store. Here we say, whoever is looking after marketing or planning for that retail store is primarily ensuring that they create a pull. Now you enter the store. When you enter the store, how the concerned salesperson or the associate sells to you, what he does, how the store entices you to buy things, we say is the push. So you need the pull and then you have the push. The same thing happens in human relations. When we talk about influencing or a leader trying to influence his followers, we say, don't try to push before you create the pull. You need to create the pull. You need to get people to listen to you, come close to you, and then you create the push. Let's first look at the pull skills. There are 3 of them. The 3 skills which are very, very critical to create the necessary pull towards you are creating rapport, authentic listening, and asking skillful questions. So let's look at each one of them. The first is creating rapport. When you want to create a pull towards you and you want your followers to listen to you, come close to you, and understand what you're trying to tell them, you need to create rapport. You need to build rapport. You need to seem friendly. You need to be seeming a person who is concerned, who builds a feeling of confidence in people. The second skill is authentic listening, where you really tune in and listen to people. You pay all your attention to what people have to tell you. You show the compassion. You listen because you want to listen. You're now listening to understand what they're trying to say. It's not about while they are speaking, you just go through your mobile phone or you get distracted. No, it's actually paying attention to what they have to say. And that we say is authentic listening. And the third skill in pull skills is asking skillful questions. Asking questions which mean a lot to them. Asking about how they feel, how their work was, what are the difficulties which they're facing, or what really was happening in their lives. And you ask these questions because it shows that you're concerned. So when you create a rapport, you listen well, and you ask skillful questions, you have created the necessary pull among your followers. They like you. They want to listen to you. They know that you're concerned about them. And once you've created this pull, you're now ready to create the push. Let us look at the push skills. There are three of them. They are asking for what you want, saying no whenever appropriate, and giving genuine feedback. So let's look at each one of them. Asking for what you want. Now that you've created a pull towards you and your followers are willing to listen to you, you can ask them for whatever you want. The second is saying no whenever appropriate. So when you don't agree with what they have to say, or you don't believe that what they are trying to do is the right way of doing things, you can disagree. You can tell them no. And they will willingly listen. Again, because you created the desired pull. The third push skill is giving feedback. Giving the necessary feedback wherever it is due. Telling them honestly what you feel, what you think. Where is it that they are going right? Where they're going wrong? What is it they need to improve on? What is it that they need to develop upon? And giving them honest feedback, whether it's their behavior or related to their ability or related to the task which they're doing. Once we develop these core skills of influencing and we practice and we become good at it, we have now the power to influence. To be a leader who can influence his followers and create the necessary transformation. Even though we have developed the skills, we need to understand that we should be very careful where we use this influence. There are certain areas which is much beyond our control. We are concerned about it. We are worried about it. But individually, we cannot do much about it. For example, we talk about global warming, we talk about nuclear warfare, or we can talk about the pandemic. Or we can talk about people, how they behave, a group of people, how they are behaving. Actually, individually, you and me cannot do much about it. We are concerned. We get frustrated about it. We are trying to influence, but it's not about me and you. It's about a group of people trying to do something. So you need to know where to influence and where not to influence. If we end up spending too much of time and energy in trying to influence things and people or situations on which we have no control, we'll end up feeling powerless. We'll end up feeling of having low self-esteem, or we'll feel that we are unable to control things. Rather, we spend more time, more energy in areas where we can be more fruitful. So we need to discriminate between what we can actually do and what we cannot actually do. So influence where we get the results. Influence on things which will yield results. Work with people who can make a difference, who will listen, who will understand, and who will really do things which you want them to do. So hence, we need to look at what is the area which we can influence and work on it to get the desired results. While doing so, it's very important to understand that when we are trying to influence people, it's got more to do with our behavior. It's got to do with how we speak to people and how we change the way we are. It's not about people. If you start working too hard in trying to change people, you'll end up frustrated, sometimes very helpless, sometimes feeling as if you're totally out of control. And that's why you have many times leaders coming and telling me and saying, I'm unable to influence my people. And when I ask them why, they say that, no, I try my best to change them and it's not working. So I always tell them, it's not about them, it's about you. So as a leader who wants to transform and be a transpowered leader, we need to understand it's our behavior which has to appropriately change so that people will get influenced and respond accordingly. And hence it is very important to understand a beautiful saying which goes like this: don't try to change people, change the environment. People always behave as per the environment in which they are in. So create the right environment as a true transpowered leader. Having seen what is influencing and what are the different skills required to influence, we need to also understand that there are different styles which you can use in different situations to influence people or your followers. All of us predominantly have one favorite style which we use to influence. Although at times we use different styles, but most often under pressure, under stress, we come back to our natural default style of influencing. But we need to know as a leader and someone who wants to be a transpowered leader that we need to understand that there are different styles of influencing and we need to use the different styles appropriately. Jenny Rogers in a book has explained about 5 styles of influencing. I'd like to spend some time in explaining these 5 styles. The first style of influencing is what we call as dominance. Each style has got an upside and a downside to it. Now, this first style of dominance, the upside is that when there is a crisis, or like we say, when there is fire, you need to use dominance. Suppose you step outside and when you come in, you see that the room is on fire. You walk into the room and you don't discuss with people, right? Like you don't tell them, what do we do? The room is on fire. What should we be doing? You actually scream. You say that, hey, the room is on fire. Let's run. And that we say is dominance. Or suppose there's a crisis in your business. You walk to your sales or marketing team and say, guys, listen, we need to move. We need to get this cracking. There's no time to discuss. Please do this. So you're using a style of dominance. The upside is, okay, when there's a crisis, you get to an immediate conclusion and you give a direction to your team. The downside is that if you keep dominating people, if you keep using this style, people will get intimidated. They'll get frustrated. They'll stop doing what they're doing. They'll start avoiding you. So this style of dominance has got an upside and a downside. The second style of influencing is what we call as partnership. In partnership, you involve people in all aspects of decision making. Before you take any decision or reach a conclusion, you involve people, you take their views, and then come to a conclusion. So the upside is that people feel involved. They feel committed to the decision or the commitment which they're given. They feel good about it. They feel as if the leader listens to them. But the downside is, if the leader keeps using partnership in everything what he or she does, then people get bored. They say every time I walk into his office and there's even the smallest thing to be discussed, he'll get into partnership. So this is the downside of partnership. The third style of influencing is others first. In this style, the leader normally allows the followers to take certain decisions. He allows them to think and decide for themselves as to what actions they need to be taking. The upside is the followers feel empowered, they feel good, they feel responsible, and they start feeling good about the fact that they are also able to take decisions. But on the downside, these followers might end up looking at the leader and saying, well, why should I consult him? Because every time he keeps saying, okay, go ahead, you take the decision. So if you use an influencing style as a leader of always putting others first, then there's a chance that people will start ignoring you. The fifth style of influencing is called bargaining. Bargaining is normally used when the leaders and followers don't seem to hit upon a common ground. When they don't see there's a possibility of an agreement happening into what is to be done or how it is to be done and so on. So then you come to use of influencing style which is called as bargaining. The upside of bargaining is when you are in a sticky wicket or you're unable to come to an agreement. Situation is such that there's a lot of heated discussions and arguments and you want to come out of it. So you use the influencing style of bargaining. The downside of bargaining is if you keep bargaining every time, people will come prepared. They know how to corner you. They know how to get you to a bargaining position. And always remember, in bargaining, you will never get the best possible result for the organization. Somebody loses something in the process. The last or the sixth style of influencing is called withdrawing. Now, what is withdrawing? Withdrawing is that you have a lot of discussions, you have a meeting, you are trying to influence your followers, the followers are trying to influence you, and you decide that, okay, I'm going to take a back seat. You withdraw. There's an upside to withdrawing. Whenever you don't have too much of details, data, information to continue on this journey of trying to influence people with the various styles which you are using, then you can quietly withdraw. Even when you withdraw, you are still influencing people, because then people ask you, what happened? We want your inputs. We want information from you. We want your thoughts. So you're still influencing them, although you have withdrawn. But the downside, if you keep using withdrawing, people will say that he's always sulking. Okay, he always withdraws. Okay, so don't bother about him. Let him withdraw. We will continue. So all these styles have their importance. They are useful. But they are useful if you consciously understand when to use them. So for different situations, for different people, you need to use different styles of influencing. So now that we have seen what is influencing, we have understood what are the skills of influencing, and we have now seen that what are the different styles which you could use to influence people, we are now equipped to really become a transpowered leader and use this power which we now know, which we call as influencing. Thank you very much for joining in this episode of Transpowerd Leader. I'll see you around in the next episode. This is Malcolm Stephens signing off.